What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Single Type Cup, some of my 5 favorite teams to play in this meta, and also just a quick look at the rankings. So let's take a quick look through these rankings here before we get too far down the rabbit hole of me not knowing what I'm talking about in the first 10 seconds of a video. So we've got a top rankings of Shadow Machamp, Vigoroth, Shadow Machoke, Wobbuffet, Haxorus, Machamp, Machoke. So we're seeing a very common trend here. Counter is the best fast move in the game, and things in this cup tend to abuse it. So whether you've got a fighter that has the fighting type, or you have a fighter that is not the fighting type like Vigoroth or Haxorus, you can definitely expect that counter users are going to be strong, because even though counter is resisted by things like the ghost type and the fairy type, that's not going to stop counter from just being an excellent move, because it does good damage and it also allows for good energy generation. Vigoroth takes very full advantage of it despite not being a pure fighter. Haxorus now with the new breaking swipe is going to be huge in this cup. Registeel is up here as the top non-counter user of the cup, followed by Dragonair. Then you've got things like Pinsir and Lurantis, Meganium. So you start kind of getting a little bit more diversity past those ranks of about 9 or 10 or so, where you're going to see some stuff. But we're going to talk about the teams now as we go in here, and I think that there's a few really good picks that I'm going to go through with these teams. All 5 of these teams are completely unique. No Pokemon overlap. So let's look at the team builder for Machamp, Registeel, and Cofagrigus. Now this feels like just a really meta team. Just 3 super strong Pokemon. There's not really as much of a strategy here as it is just abuse the fact that you've got like the 3 strongest Pokemon of their sort of like type or subtype or whatever you want, like anti-fighter, the steel, and then the fighter. Like you've got the 3 best of the best in this situations that they're playing out. So the coverage of this team is pretty phenomenal here. You really don't have a whole ton of things that break the team. Cofagrigus could be really, really hard to deal with if you give it some energy. Otherwise, Ninetales, Kanto Ninetales, on paper, yes, it wins, but again, only Registeel really has a bad matchup there. Cofagrigus and Shadow Machamp could easily do some huge damage into that Ninetales or regular Machamp, whichever one you prefer. I think Shadow Machamp just wins anyway. So you could even run Payback on your Machamp. I don't mind it to deal with Cofagrigus, because I definitely think Cofagrigus is going to be in a lot of teams. It's just a really, really strong, really, powerful ghost type that doesn't really rely on baits. It just hits you with moves and you have to deal with it. So unless you've got like Umbreon or something to take care of it, you are not looking too great as far as that goes. But then we start talking about things like Grimer and Superior and Mew and things that you're probably not going to see a whole lot of that are core breakers, and that's the line is fine. We're going to see some Cofagrigus, we're going to see some Ninetales, we're probably going to see some Surfetched, you might see Meganium, but after that the list gets to be like things you're going to see very few of, so that's okay with me. Let's take a look at the next team here and see what we've got. We've got Clefable with 2 hard answers to Registeel, and subsequently somewhat hard answers to Poison. You could definitely, as long as your backline has hard answers to Registeel and Poison and Fire, I feel like you're good. Donphan does feel like he fits that bill. Shadow Donphan, I have actually been recently enlightened to Shadow Donphan, as some of my Patreon members have been using it in some cups in the last season, and I'm actually high tempted to build it myself. And if you're interested in what teams we're going to be running this week, because I guarantee you it probably will end up being different than the ones in this video, just because that's usually how it goes. I do my analysis and then we end up running something totally different, because that's just what the meta looks like at the time. But check me out on patreon.com/XehrFelrose. Link in the description and the pinned comment. You'll also see it at the end of the video if you're still watching. Thank you so much, by the way, for continuing to watch this content. It means so much to me that you guys enjoy it. And you can get early access to those teams, meta-analysis, strategies, etc. by going to Patreon and signing up, becoming a member. And if you're looking for coaching to up your game, I would like to help you get to the next level, or just, make you more a consistent player. It's a fun thing for me to do to help other people, and you can find the services that I offer on Metafy.com over there, link in the description, pinned comment as well. And like and subscribe, of course, if you like the stuff that you're experiencing on this channel, because I guarantee you're not going to find it anywhere else. At least I hope not. I'll have to go and beat up my doppelganger if that's the case. But anyway, so Clefable with 2 answers to Registeel. The C for coverage, and honestly, you don't need to really pay as much attention to the letter grades. They're nice when they're all lit up in blue and A's and things. But truthfully, a team is just as good as the meta it's in. If you're not seeing things that aren't covered here, then they may as well not exist, right? So like if I'm over here, I'm not seeing any Regirock, I don't care. right? And you have to think about it too. Like, you have play against Regirock. As long as you're not stuck against the Ninetales, you've got play. Your Clefable has Meteor Mash. Your Donphan has Earthquake and Counter. You have play against the Regirock. You just, you know, remember the context, right? So it's okay to have some things on here that technically beat you on paper, but if you know that there's context that you can beat them if you do this or that, it's always a good thing to know. So, other things that core break this team here, we've got things like Lickitung, which may or may not be common with the amount of Vigoroth and Registeel out. It's hard to say right now, but there will definitely be some Lickitungs out there. And then we'll start looking at Seeking, Politoed, Poly. You're like, the Polys, like, it's fine. It's fine. This team will do what it needs to do. And I don't mind subbing out something like Donphan for like Vigoroth, or if you want to sub out the Ninetales for something else as well. You're just looking to put Clefable in front with two very hard, but very, like, you know, could grind out a two-shield matchup. Like, yeah, I don't mean throwing Haxorus in the back if you want to. I mean, that's fine, too. I would have, but I was trying not to make any Pokemon overlap. So I think that anything that would be in here to be able to, you know, go through a two-shield matchup and flip switch if you need to, if you catch a Registeel or something on the lead or a Muck, then I think that would be ideal. However, these are just two Pokemon that I picked because they're very strong against most of the things that Clefable struggles against in this meta, and I think it'll be good. So let's take a look at the next team. The most disgusting one by far. This, if you take Lickitung and put in Chansey, I think this is probably the most disgusting team in the entire meta, and I don't want to do it. But, boy, it'll be the longest content video ever. 5-minute matches every time. Wobbuffet with 2 answers to Ghost, basically just hard answer Cofagrigus in the back is what you're looking for here. So Umbreon and Lickitung both fill that role very nicely. They do get a B for coverage, but man, that bulk is going to be, not only is it A, but it's like triple S tier bulk. Like, this is ridiculous. You also get Umbreon and Lickitung also do beat Wobbuffet for what it's worth. So if you are running those Pokemon, maybe not in this team specifically, but if you do end up against a Wobbuffet, even though the Wobbuffet runs counter, its damage is so very small. You know, they wibble and they wobble, but they don't fall down. But they also don't do anything back to you either. So, you know, your super effective damage from Lickitung and from Umbreon could deal with it in the field if you need to. But this team specifically, it's literally just meant to, you know, if not time out, just completely outbulk somebody. Like, Registeel does win on paper against the whole team, but I imagine that, you can even check out this matchup here. I imagine that the 2-shield matchup, yeah, it goes in Wobbuffet's favor. Because look at how much damage the matchup ends with on Registeel's side. If you commit one more shield on Wobbuffet, you win against Registeel. So I wouldn't worry too much about losing to Registeel there at all. So other than that, you know, Lurantis, not going to see a ton of them, and honestly only wins if it lands a superpower on either of these two. And then Meganium is, I mean, Meganium could be good. I think it could be good. There's not a whole lot of flyers in this meta, so I think the Meganium is definitely like a hidden gem. No, pun was definitely intended there. So that's really kind of it for this team. It's just an extraordinarily bulky team. Umbreon would be a bit of a core breaker to the Lickitung and Wobbuffet, but you can manage. Just look at this team. This thing is disgusting. It gives me actual pain. I'm literally getting a headache just looking at this team. So let's move on to the next one. A little bit more of a fun team. So we've got a Haxorus team here. Haxorus on the lead with Regirock and Double in the back. So what we're essentially doing here is we're looking to lure out like the Vigoroth or the Fighter, and then, well, Haxorus isn't exactly the choice that I would say to farm down a Fighter with. Maybe you could put like a Fairy in the front, maybe Florges with Petal Blizzard, or Slurpuff with Energy Ball. Something that can hit water, but also deal with Fighters. Now, I really focused mostly on Vigoroth here because a lot of people just run the Vigoroth. And since Haxorus does super effective damage with counter, I figured maybe that would be a better situation because Double does keep Vigoroth's energy depleted because of how quickly they both get to their moves. It would make the matchup very close, and usually it ends up in Double's favor because it can just very narrowly outpace. And then Regirock's back here because Regirock is just strong, and if you have gotten a Shadow Regirock as well, that will work. But you could also use the Regirock you got from the research, from whatever research we got months ago. Hopefully you have one. If not, I'm sorry. You could probably put Regice or Registeel in this slot too. Like I said, just trying to make some unique teams here. The whole team beats Vigoroth, which is always a plus. And Wobbuffet beats the whole team, which is never a plus. But hopefully there are some 2 shield matchups that Wobbuffet does lose. I know Wobbuffet is going to probably be one of the most common Pokemon for the XL abusers to be using. This team doesn't necessarily, you know, win against the hard meta without some finesse, but the Haxorus team, and Haxorus is just going to be so much fun. We all love Haxorus. We can't deny it. Haxorus is a fun Pokemon, a super, really cool looking Pokemon, and the fact that it's got Breaking Swipe and it's now meta relevant is actually really awesome. So, really, just fairies because they resist the fighting damage, and then you've got like Melodic, which does Dragon Tail. Like that, okay. You know what? If you're running Melodic into my team that I'm running this year, you can have the game, because there was no way I was expecting anybody to run that. But Wobbuffet could be an issue. Registeel, I know Haxorus can plow through a Registeel with multiple shields, and Regirock honestly doesn't do too badly as long as it's got some energy to it. Double also does okay, but not ideal. You definitely want the Haxorus and the Registeel if you're going through. But let's take a look at the last team, which is a little bit more of a... It's a weird one, right? So we've got Shadow Dragonair, which, as you may have known, just from being a battler, like, this team gets 3 A's and a D for bulk. Bulk isn't always what you're looking for here, because you can just shred things with Shadow Dragonair. You see a Haxorus lead, shred them. You see anything else that's not Steel or Fairy, just shred them. Just shred them. Shred. And you probably get shield advantage. And then Vigoroth just goes off because it's a super spammy, super neutral, super everything Pokemon. And Muck is back there to sort of be a poison that deals with other poisons or is able to deal with fairies. Fairies is really going to be the thing that we need. Now, Vigoroth is back there to sort of deal with the steals. So it could depend on, you know, alignment if you want to play this with a, you know, Dragonair just takes out the lead, and then you try to RPS the backline. You could change the team up like that if you wanted to as well. But as far as coverage goes, this team is super solid. Really only having an issue with Donphan. Everything else has answers on this team. Even Muck can deal with the Wobbuffet. I imagine that Dragonair probably does a pretty big chunk into the Wobbuffet before it goes down. And then most of this other stuff, it looks like neutral matchups against fighters, which I can almost guarantee you that with a second shield, Dragonair probably rips through just about all of them and gets you switch advantage if you need it. So that's going to do it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. You've already heard me show myself earlier in the video, so no need to do it now. But just a reminder, if you want to support the channel or check out any of the perks that I offer, link in the description, pinned comment. And that is going to do it for this video. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.